Welcome back to the Rennis Rinke experience. Glad that you've decided to join us this afternoon. Again, I am your host, Rennis Rinke, and I would like to bring on one of my guests today. You all know him. His name is Lonald Weiler-Sledge. He hosts the program Sledgehammering the right here on Public Radio Seattle, every Monday through Friday from 8 to 10. Now, welcome, Lonald.
Glad to be on.
All right, Lonald. Well, as you know, one of the major topics in the news the past week has been really the topic of Donald Trump spreading a wild, debunked conspiracy theory that has been debunked thousands of times about him being spied on during the 2016 presidential campaign and beyond. Now, obviously, it's very dangerous that he is out there spreading these lies about being spied on, but why does he continue to do it?
Well, if you ask me, I think he's afraid of what's going to come out in the Mueller report, because I think the Mueller report is going to show that he conspired very heavily with the Russians and did everything to obstruct any justice to look into this. Now, if you ask me, I think that the intelligence community knew what was going on with Donald Trump and how compromised he was with Russia. So they thought that we need to look into his campaign and make sure he's not directly working with Russia. So if there was quotation marks spying going on Donald Trump, then I sure as hell hope that the intelligence community deployed every single surveillance asset out there to make sure that the Russians did not have him by the balls, so to speak. So I hope that he was surveilled. Now, spying implies that there was something wrong doing this, but if you ask me, I think it was all done by the book. And these elements within the intelligence community and the FBI did the patriotic thing and looked into the obvious collusion with Russia that was going on.
And you know, I tend to agree with that, to be honest with you, because, I mean, if you got intelligence intel that showed that Donald Trump, or any presidential candidate for that matter, was compromised by a foreign country, wouldn't you want to deploy the entire arsenal of the government and Justice Department to make sure that there was no collusion going on and nip it in the bud before it could get started? That's how I see it personally. I believe that, you know, it didn't go far enough because Donald Trump still won. So even though we know there's mountains of evidence out there that shows that Donald Trump worked directly with the Russians to steal the election, he still won. So if anything, I don't think the DOJ and the intelligence communities went far enough. Do you agree?
Well, absolutely, because, I mean, just look at it. Trump won. He was colluding with the Russians out in the open. Everybody knows it. Everybody knew it, and everybody knows that at the time, and I think that's going to be in the Mueller report if it's ever released, to show that there is major collusion going on. When there's smoke, there's fire, and the intelligence community just did what they had to do to make sure that a compromised candidate was not being controlled, and he didn't win, but he won, and that's the problem. Because he won, I believe that empowered Trump and made him collude and work with Russia even more, as we can see a lot of his policy is being influenced directly by Russia. So I think that the intelligence community should have done more, and I think Comey being fired was Trump's way of saying, I won by colluding, I'm going to keep colluding, and there's nothing you can do about it, and anybody who looks into my collusion is going to get fired. But then Mueller came along, and I feel like he felt like Mueller was too strong. He fired Comey, but then Mueller, I don't think he wanted to test Mueller, because everybody knows that Mueller is a guy you do not mess with.
Absolutely, and I believe that Mueller's track record speaks for itself, which is why I'm very interested in seeing the report. I mean, there's so much in this report that could just be devastating for Donald Trump, and that's why he's doing everything he can to obstruct it from being released, just like he obstructed justice when it came to the Mueller investigation. And we have mountains upon mountains of collusion evidence and mountains upon mountains of obstruction evidence, and that's why I think Trump has to make sure this report does not see the light of day. Otherwise, it's just going to come out that, look at this man, he's a colluder, he's an obstructor, he can't be trusted, and his entire house of cards will fall if this Mueller report comes out.
Absolutely, which is why we need to keep hammering Congress and our representatives and senators and anybody else who has the ability to make this report seen. We need to keep hammering them and let them know we're not going to be satisfied until this report is released. Okay? If this report continues to be buried in darkness, then our democracy will continue to die. And we can't let that happen. We need to be aggressive. We need to take to the streets and march and protest until this report is released. That's how I see it. I don't know if it's going to be released unredacted, but it sure needs to be, which is why I support Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell in all their efforts to make sure this report is seen. Every word, no redactions.
Absolutely. I couldn't say it better myself. So anyway, so on that subject, do you think that ultimately that Donald Trump is going to have to pay the price for trashing our intelligence communities by saying that they spied on him, implying that there was some kind of privacy violation or some kind of violation of his rights? I think that him going around and his supporters going around saying that Trump was spied on, like Bill Barr the other day saying that Trump was spied on, is extremely dangerous for our democracy. And every time that these accusations are hurled, that's just another chink in the armor of our intelligence community, and I think it needs to stop now.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself, Rennis. I mean, when Bill Barr took to the microphone at Congress the other day and said that Trump was spied on, I fell out of my chair. I could not believe my own ears. It absolutely disgusts me that such accusations were made. It was not spying. It was proper surveillance because there was tons and tons and tons of irrefutable evidence out there showing that Trump was compromised by the Russians. And he had to be stopped. He had to be stopped. And yet he wasn't. And now he was even more emboldened to keep colluding with Russia and be Putin's stooge. Which is why we need him impeached. We can't wait until 2020. We have to impeach him now. Now. Do you hear me? Now. N-O-W. Now.
Passionate words from a passionate man. That was my guest, Lonald Weiler-Sledge. Thank you for coming on today, Lonald.
My honor. I'm sorry, I'm just still wound up from all this. I'm sorry. But like I said, you can hear me on my show every Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 right here on Public Radio Seattle, where I take it to the right. That's why my show is called Sledgehammering the Right, because I take a sledgehammer to the right's lies every night. Every night. Again, Rennis, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Anytime, Lonald. I love your energy. I love your passion. And we're gonna do this. We're going to defeat Trump. We will make sure he does not win in 2020, and we're going to make sure he doesn't even make it to 2020. We just got to hope that Mueller report comes out. Well, that does it for this segment. We'll be right back with the Rennis Rinke Experience right here on Public Radio Seattle.